Dan, what's your earliest recollection of being a sports freak, of saying, I need to be around sports, I need to be playing sports, I need to be talking about sports?
Very young, and being Canadian, it would start with hockey. I was 10 years old when the Blue Jays were born, so I obviously have some memories earlier than that. And in the 1970s, the Maple Leafs, I know this is shocking, they were actually a good team for a number of years. Darryl Sittler was my guy. We have the same initials. I thought that was some sort of cosmic thing between us. So I remember the Maple Leafs probably in about 73 and 74, being a pretty good team then. And then when baseball came in 77, I became a huge baseball fan.
Now, when do you get the idea in your head that you might be able to make a living out of doing something related to sports?
Not till relatively late. I don't know what your path was, but I was a math geek. I studied actuarial science in college. I graduated as an actuary. I worked for 6 months as an actuary. When I was in university, as we say in Canada, at Western Ontario, I kind of messed around for fun at the campus radio station, but it was a small production. It wasn't like I was doing University of Michigan football or Ohio State football or anything like that. So I did it just for fun, actually gave it up in my last year in school, and then about 6 months into my job as an actuary, I had what I like to call my midlife crisis at the age of 22, which I really recommend for people. You have no mortgage, you have no debt, you have no children, get it out of the way early. And I said, let's give it a try. And I started working at a very small radio station and moved up from there. But this was not even something I considered professionally until after I graduated.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned actuarial science. I actually have a brother who's an actuary.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I think that he would love to have taken your path. Now, he loves his job.
Yeah.
As you described, he's a math geek. But when he asks me questions about what I do, I think he would love to be in the sports field. So you don't miss the actuarial part of your life?
You know what? I loved all my professors and all the people I worked with, and I hope you're doing great, but I'm happy where I am right now.
You're happy where you are. When you think about the trajectory of your career, what were the things that helped you get to where you are today?
Well, a lot of it was good timing and good breaks, to be honest with you. If I go back to the early 1990s, I was in Toronto, and they were just starting to create an all-sports radio station. And people now would say, well, what's the big deal? But at that point in time, WFAN, to my knowledge, was the only all-sports radio station anywhere in North America. And I think Toronto might have been the second. And people said, well, that'll never work. What are you going to talk about all day? Well, thank you, Blue Jays, for winning the World Series in 92 and 93. That helped. Thank you, Maple Leafs, for making the conference finals in 93 and 94. So I got there at a good time. You just couldn't have enough sports content on the air, and I was very lucky. And then in 1995, the guy who had been the Blue Jays play-by-play announcer, Jim Houston, decided to move back to Vancouver and just focus on hockey. And the Blue Jays needed a play-by-play guy. And I was young, cheap, and local. So I got the job. Although I didn't get it, I auditioned, and they said thanks but no thanks. And 3 months later, they called me back and said, come on back in. And I got the job. And those were huge breaks. I think once I started doing the Blue Jays on TV in Canada, I'd already started doing a little bit of ESPN radio through kind of a quirky coincidence as well, but I think getting the Blue Jays job back in 95 was a huge break for me. And also the World Championship of Basketball was in Toronto in 94. ESPN saw that I had done that, and that led to me doing college basketball. I mean, honestly, I've had like a guardian angel on my shoulder.
And your career has come full circle because you're back to doing Blue Jays again for the next couple of years at least. But I think most people know you now as this security guard out there, and
right,
you and I were walking in, and he said, I know you.
Yeah.
And I said, Ernest, Sunday Night Baseball. So it's Sunday Night Baseball, you do college basketball.
Yes.
I want to help some of the aspiring broadcasters out there. What's your preparation like? Because when you're on the air, no matter who you're working with, to me, everything is seamless. So what's your preparation to make it get to that point?
Well, it's funny because people will sometimes ask me, and I'm sure they do you as well, how many hours do you work a week? And there is no answer to that question. Or how many days do you work a year? There is no answer to that question. Now, we're very lucky opening up a sports section or going online and reading articles or watching highlights or watching games. We kind of have to do that for work. So, for example, my next game as we sit here, my next Sunday night game is the Dodgers and the Mets on Sunday night. Just got off my conference call before you and I sat down. So I will try to watch. We've got Kershaw and Cologne. I'll try to watch the last start of each pitcher, although Kershaw and Cologne are kind of known commodities. So, it's not like Kershaw's breaking out a knuckleball or anything like that, so you know what you're getting. But, reading the local papers every day for a week going up, watching as many games as you can, just research. The internet is a great thing, but it's also a rabbit hole. You fall down it, you can't get back out. Try to come to the game Saturday if I can get into town earlier, talk to coaches, talk to players, read the day before game notes. Pretty standard stuff, but I think what helps me the most is I don't view it as just preparing for that game. I like to think I keep up on the sport as a whole day by day by day. So even if I got a phone call and they had an emergency, can you go to San Diego and do a game? I could go to San Diego and do a game tomorrow. So listen, I love baseball, I love basketball, so keeping up on the work is really a labor of love.
What's the best thing that one of your analysts could say to you that tells you, I did my job well tonight?
You let me talk a lot. That's how you keep them happy. You pass them the ball and you let them knock down the shots. But, you know, I've worked with so many different people. You know, working with Dick Vitale is different than working with Jay Billis. Working with Aaron Boone is different than working with Oral Hershiser or Bobby Valentine or Terry Francona or whomever. But I view my job as I'm the point guard, and it's my job to move the ball around and set the, you know, Buster Olney or Aaron or Jess or whoever I'm with, set them up in a nice spot for a corner three to knock down the shot. So if they're happy, I'm happy.
That's a good way to put it. Now, you mentioned Bobby Valentine. You were actually on the air with Valentine on the night when the United States was able to announce to President Obama that bin Laden had been killed. And I've read comments from you where you talk about that becomes important, but you want to make sure you get it right, and you want to say it in a way that you're getting the news across in a sports forum. Take me back to that night. What was that like?
It was surreal. I mean, it's not in the play-by-play handbook to handle that kind of a situation, and it was Bobby who nudged me. He was sitting right to my right. It was Bobby who nudged me and showed me a text message from somebody that said, "We got bin Laden," and that's kind of how it started. And I was talking to the people in the truck, not on the air, on talkback to our producer and our news editor. Have you guys heard this? And they're, yeah, we're getting something. Don't say anything yet. We're trying to corroborate it. The 2-2 pitch down and away. Like, meanwhile, you're doing a baseball game at the same time. So you have a responsibility to the game, but obviously that was the biggest story in the world that night. And what became a big part of the story, and I don't know if you were in Philadelphia that night for that game, but was the fans in the crowd as they started to find out on their smartphones the USA chants and so on and so forth. So I was very cautious. I wasn't trained to do that kind of thing. I think if I could do it again, you don't want to have to deal with that kind of situation, but if I could do it again, I would do it better. I just really played it safe, and Bobby helped me a lot because Bobby was there in 9/11, and Bobby is the manager of the Mets at that point in time. They went down to ground zero. He offered a lot of context to me, but I wanted to be as respectful and cautious about that situation as I could.
What's left for you? I mean, you have what people would describe as dream jobs, not even just dream job.
Yeah.
What else would you like to do in your career?
I don't know that there's much of anything. I did one Olympics way back when. For some reason, I've always wanted to do swimming in an Olympics. I don't know why. It's just an itch I'd like to scratch. But I love baseball. I love college basketball. I've had opportunities to kind of branch out and do other sports, but I'm so invested in these two sports. Now, as you mentioned, I guess I'm getting older. I'm kind of circling back home and starting to do some Blue Jays games again. And maybe the only thing left for me is my youngest son really wants to get into the business. And I'm trying to talk him out of it. But if he does get into the business, maybe the chance for us to do something together at some point would be the last thing I really want to do.
How old is he, and why are you trying to talk him out of it?
He's 15, and he's a super bright kid, can do anything he wants, and he understands the odds are long, that you can be pretty good, and this can still be a hard business. I think you would probably admit as much as I do. There are a lot of good people in the business, and we're lucky to be sitting here, at Yankee Stadium or doing whatever we do. You can be really good, and still it might not work out for you. So he understands the risks and the odds, and as long as he's good with that, I'm all for it. But he's got a great business mind, too, a real smart kid. So whatever he chooses is fine with me. But if I could sit beside him in a booth one day, that'd be a lot of fun.
That'd be a great situation to have happen. So, Dan, every time we do one of these JCTV interviews, we end by opening a pack of baseball cards, and then whoever we decide has the best card, and we'll have a little debate, keeps both packs.
All right.
Now, guess what?
Are you undefeated?
I'm probably about 22-1 because it's my show.
Okay.
These are Topps 2016, and they're called the Heritage Collection. Today's star is in the 1967 design. What year were you born, Mr. Shulman?
1967, the last year the Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup.
A little gift for you here, so let's see what we got.
I'm off to a slow start.
I got a Padres team card. That's not going to help me,
I have an
right?
Evel Knievel flashback card. That's got to be worth something.
That's almost a wild card. I'm going to have to go to the judges on that one.
I've got Jung Ho Gong, who I love. I think he's a great player. I can close with Brad Boxberger once he gets healthy. And I might have a future star in Eduardo Rodriguez. But I don't have anybody who's going to be a superstar right now.
My pack is a little dull, too, except for this. I have something called a Then and Now card, which has a Hall of Famer in Phil Niekro and Zach Greinke. I think I win the cards. I'm sorry,
Can
Dan.
I just keep the Evel Knievel card?
Yes.
Yeah.
give this to your son. Wait, and you said you like Gong.
I like
I'm going to give you that
Gong. Yes,
one, too.
I like
and we'll
Gong.
give you the Evel Knievel card.
All right.
Where did that one go?
There it is.
Dan, thanks so much for the time.
You're welcome.
I
Anytime,
appreciate
Jack.
it.
You got
Right.
it. Yeah.